Reading in bed.
This is amazing, Amanda, today, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been going for 3 years now.
Yeah, 36 episodes now of Reading in Bed. It's not quite obviously like just 36 episodes now, Amanda, is it? Because why, Amanda?
Because I've been doing Reading in Bed extracts.
Yeah, and you've only done 19 of them now, have you know?
Sounds about right.
I think it's about 19. Now, there was a 20th one I've got to edit together for next time. And we've done, I was going back to the archive this year, and there is a few extra episodes we've done as well, isn't there, this year as well? We did one on your charity book.
Yeah, and the Choose Your Own Adventure, and we did sort of a lockdown special, didn't we? I think it was April.
Yeah, so we've been quite a productive year for Reading in Bed this year. So let's see if we can be as productive next year. I don't doubt we won't be. So now, of course, I am Andy N.
And I'm Amanda Steele.
Now, podcast today is going to be, it's a little bit different this one today, Amanda, I suppose, isn't it, really? So.
Yeah, we always do a Christmas special.
Yeah, ho, 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 as I would say.
Merry Christmas.
That's if we're going to get right today. No, but seriously, within Christmas time, we're going to have there's only going to be 4 parts in the podcast today, really. We're going to have, obviously, our news one and first book in a minute. Amanda's going to do the second part with one of her books, and I'm going to do the third part with another book. Then part 4 is going to be, what we're doing part 4, Amanda?
We're going to do my best books, and I'm going to read the extract out from my Santa Claus book.
Yeah, and I've got a brand new flash fiction piece done, Amanda, haven't I? So, which I'll be doing.
Yeah, it's very good as well.
Yeah, rather good. So, but anyway, right, okay. News then, Amanda. What news have we got to share?
I've got a couple of little bits of news. I brought out my 3rd book in my Destiny Initiative trilogy.
Yeah, it's just come out that, Amanda, hasn't it? So now, Tell people a bit about the background about this, because we might be repeating ourselves a little bit. But you've bought out, how many of these books have you bought out now this year?
I bought out 3, but originally one was with a publisher, and I had the other one waiting, and obviously the publisher shut down, so they never took it off me. So I just thought, well, I'm going to re-release the first one, bring the second one out, and then bring the third one out and be done with it then.
Yeah.
So the first one is called First Charge, and that's free. So you can read the first one for free on all the different ebook platforms, and then hopefully you'll like it and buy the other 2.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to do the 2. I think really, look back in hindsight, Amanda, you've been really productive in novels this year, really, haven't you? Because Ghost of Me came out in March.
Yeah, that was set to pre-order for a few months, so I finished that about this time last year.
And then, obviously, you've gone and done, I know you've done, people won't necessarily know this, obviously, when First Charge came out, obviously, you've done about, what, half of the first draft, was it? Of the second book,
I'd done the whole of the second book, but I hadn't done the final edit because I thought the publisher was going to take it and they would do that. So then I did the final edit myself, and then I started on the 3rd book.
Yeah, so we've been quite productive, and also we'll do it as a review next year, basically. We'll do a review for this episode, because people see how busy you've been. Now, what else have you been up to, Amanda?
I've had a short story shortlisted in the top 10. I don't know if I can name the competition, so I'm not going to, because they've put the titles on the website, but they haven't put the authors. So until they start putting my name on, I'm going to assume I'm not allowed to mention who they are. But my short story was shortlisted, and it sounds like there were actually more than 10 entries, which is a good thing.
Oh, completely. Now, did we mention last month about the Hannah Kate thing with the 3-minute scares?
No, we didn't.
Right, I'll let you tell people about that as well then, okay?
Well, that closes tomorrow, doesn't it? So
no, it's 3-minute Santas tomorrow we've entered, just to confuse people.
Oh, right, yeah, I was thinking of that. I think we might have mentioned the 3-minute scares. I just got an honourable mention on it, that's all.
Still very nice, so I don't think you've got anything else on the go at the moment, really, Amanda, have you? So nothing I'm aware of.
No, try and get a couple of hours sleep every night.
Yeah, we like to rest occasionally. So. Now, news from me is, as I hinted at last month, I've had 2 albums come out on Ocean of Buckle, Amanda, haven't I? On solar system, space music. One was called Vocalising the Solar System, which is me, Amanda, and about 5 of our mutual comrades in arms doing spoken word of my ambient space music And then I did one called Reimagining the Solar System, which was 8 tracks over basically one for each planet. And that came out at the end of November on I think it's Belgium's Off Records, which you can find on Still Off. I think it's stilloff.bandcamp.com. It's a good album. I like it. I'm proud of it. And I've got quite a bit of other stuff coming out this year in Ocean of the Buckles now. Bits and big, quite a bit going on at the moment, actually. So, but that'll be more next month, I suspect. So, right, Amanda. That's all our news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should we lead people into books? Then?
Yeah, I think you should review a book now.
Oh, yes. Now, should we have something nice and seasonal, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first book I'm going to do today, and people might know, when I say seasonal, the title's very seasonal here, straight away. The book itself is called... my nose is a bit blocked up today. Sorry about this. It's by Darcie Morin, I forget how it's pronounced. And it's book 1 in the Nick Rudd series. And it's called 12 Murders to Christmas.
That sounds cheerful.
Oh, yeah. It's a very, it's very you, this sort of title, Amanda, basically, isn't it? Seasonal murders.
Yeah.
Like what?
So do you want to read the blurb then to tell us how cheerful it is?
Oh, it's very great. It's very, very happy-go-lucky, this book. Now, it's quite a long blurb as well. I don't know why they've done it so long, but I know. We'll get that in a minute. Okay, you ready? This is the blurb I picked up. Every homicide detective's worst nightmare is to get a note that says, "I will kill one body a month until you stop me." Detectives Nick Rudd and Duncan Crane of the NYPD get that note one morning in January. And they were now being forced to the impossible task of racing against the clock to stop a deranged killer from taking out half of New York. With no real victim pattern, no evidence, nothing to lead them in a solid direction, the detectives were at a loss. But Detective Rudd wouldn't give up. Working around the clock, Nick Rudd is determined to stop this deranged killer and do that. He had to figure out why they began in the first place. At the same time, he was dealing with his own family problems and the realization that his best friend and partner, Detective Crane, had gone dirty and was now working with the biggest drug lord in New York City. With all that this place, it's a wonder he's able to get through the day in one piece, let alone solve a homicide. The only people he can rely on are his sister Stella, who adamantly hates Duncan, and his friend and developing love interest, the medical examiner, Dr. Kate Alexander. If it wasn't for the two of them, he'd fall apart completely. Everyone expects Nick to fix things and be usually like he usually does. He often struggles to get through the hard times, just as any human would. A single father of 5. He's a busy life, isn't he? But brother and detective, Nick Rudd takes his job very seriously, and he's by the book cop. He loves hard and will stop at all nothing to solve the case. As the victims pile up, Nick was struggling to work the case and keep Duncan from destroying not only his career, but Nick's as well. Things hit a little bit too close to home. And Nick is faced with the hardest loss any cop should ever have to deal with. The question is, will he be able to come back from this loss, or will it completely shatter him and cost everyone?
Okay, that's a long blurb.
It's way too long, that, isn't it, really? Do you think so?
Yeah. I think there's quite a bit you could cut out of that. But
there was
we're not reviewing the blurb, are we?
No, you could have got the blurb down in half, truth be told. So
yeah.
That's why. So, but anyway, listen, that's a story for another, that's criticism for another day. What do you want to know first?
I'll start with the good points. There's so many are in there.
Yeah, there's things I liked about it, and things I guess I didn't like about it. I'll come on to that in a minute. Right, okay. I think it had a really good, strong ending, straight opening, I should say, with a massacre in a cafe, and that was quite dramatic. That was to start the book off, and I thought Nick Rudd was a believable cop, at least to start with, who has to deal with the death of his wife and one of his children in this said massacre in the cafe. And then, as the case begins to develop, he's left starting to wonder whether his partner Duncan Crane, who is known to his childhood, knows more about this and he's letting on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you think then? Do you think the pace a book that's 197 pages long that's not a bad little length for a book, really, is it?
No, it's usually more action-packed if it's shorter.
Yeah.
It's if you're trying to make it 300 or 400 pages, you spread it out a bit more, don't you?
Yeah. And this one, yeah, Gravy, that's what it did here. It's 197 pages or so, which means, of course, it can't hang around. And as the time begins to move along, the killer begins to start killing people one a month. And one thing I did like about this book, actually, was they didn't mess around with this, and I thought they were going to as well, was the tension between the detective and, say, the doctor. There was that sort of hinting of sexual chemistry almost immediately. And usually with book series like this, they'll drag it out over a couple of books, won't they?
Yeah.
They didn't. They got together in about 70 pages. So, but at least I'll look at this. At least they got it together, is my philosophy, didn't they? But as the murders are stacked up nice and one after each other, they need to build up quite okay. I like the ending. The ending was really good. But the final confrontation, which involved a member of Nick's family and the killer, was pretty gripping, I've got to say, which had a very surprise ending.
Okay. So, are there any more good points before you start tearing it to pieces?
No. On to the bad points now, okay? Unfortunately, there isn't. Now, I've got to ask Amanda a couple of questions in this one, okay? I picked this book up as a promo, freebie promo actually, of Amazon actually. Came up on the ads actually. Well, okay, I'll give it a go. But now, would you believe there's over £6 for a Kindle?
No, I think people are charging too much for the Kindle versions.
Yeah, which is a rip-off really, isn't it? Completely so.
Yeah.
You go do that sort of price.
I've seen too many people doing that, and it just puts me off, no matter how good the book sounds, because it's Kindle. There's no costs. You don't have to like make it or print it or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. But it's 197 pages, and what, there's 6 or 7 pages at the end, which are a prologue for the next book. I thought to myself, it's a rip-off straight away, that is. And what do you reckon they're charging for the paperback?
About £20.
It wasn't that, dear. just over a tenner, which I thought myself was that.
That's not the worst, is it? Because if you remember, my publisher had mine listed at $19.99, and I had to try and find cheaper ways and try and guide people to the cheaper ways, and even that was a bit unpressed.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like I said, it's. I just can't. It's self-published as well.
Oh, well, there's no excuse if it's self-published. You set the price yourself.
Exactly with it. So, right, anyway, I found this a bit odd, this book, because, like, obviously, it's interesting, it's a female writer in this book, actually, wrote books, female author, which you normally get that. You normally expect, wouldn't you, like, there's three female central characters in the book. Stella, Nick's sister, Dr. Kate becomes Nick's love interest. There's new parts of Jessica who comes in half through the book. I found all 3 of them very undercooked characters, which was really surprised me. Because like, you think really like is you can have a couple of male characters above them, and they're all just like a bit like wallflower dressings, basically.
Yeah.
I liked the interaction between Dr. Kate and Jessica by the end of the book, but there's no character to like Jessica at all. You didn't know why she came into the book. Very little about her. And if I'm honest, I probably would have liked the book focus on Kate and Jessica and drop Nick completely by the end of it. He's left a gibbering mess.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you the big spoiler at the end of it?
Okay, spoiler alert, everyone.
Yeah. And this surprised me, this did. They had a big confrontation back in the cafe where the killer goes and kidnaps Nick's son. His son's 5 years old. And the son gets killed in the crossfire.
Right.
And I thought to myself, wow. I thought, God, the cops will be a gibbering mess after this. He's had a son and a young daughter took out already in the same cafe. I thought to myself, and then it seemed to skip forward for 6 months, and he's running around in another case. I thought to myself, no way.
No.
You can't
It's
buy
almost like the author doesn't understand how something like that would affect somebody.
Yeah.
Like they just think, oh well, they'd be all right in 6 months.
It's crazy. It's bad enough you lose your wife and one child in an instant massacre. There's no way that cop would have been working after that. It'd been a gibbering mess.
Oh. It'd probably take him 6 months to get to the point where he even starts to deal with it, let alone get over it.
Exactly. And
he's probably be in denial for 6 months.
Probably, yeah. And then he loses another child. He's had 5 kids, 2 of them are dead now, linked into the same case. It was really unrealistic, it was. And I felt this is I probably on this right. The second book of the series out as well, and people were writing on the reviews and some various things. Oh, it's really believable. I thought, no, it's not, because his friend that falls under the influence of the mob, very, very wishy-washy character again. And the problem with it was he didn't buy it. His friend, who was his mate, who was his partner, should have been reporting him immediately. You've got to protect you. You're looking at his job like that. You're protecting not just yourself, protecting it's a service due job. And then the suspension was completely illogical when they suspended Duncan later on. And I thought to myself, this person's not checked their police procedures at all. I don't know what they're like in America, but I didn't buy a word of it. And do you know what also? The thing that really pissed me off about this book, Amanda, was
what?
I was hoping actually for a Killing or two around Christmas period. It really was. There was none.
Yeah.
It started off in January and ran through to about May. And I think the massacre was in the end of November or something. So it wasn't, you know what I mean? I think you'd be like, we do it on Christmas time, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And if you're calling a book 12 Deaths Till Christmas, what does that tell you straight? And the cover's all Christmassy as well.
Like it's trying to cash in on like the Christmas market, but without actually having anything to do with Christmas.
Yeah. And I can't give it any sort of good mark for that, because it's a whoever's done the design on that has told an out lie. The book wasn't very good anyway. There's no truth, but it was quite a poor book, I felt. So, undercooked. The structure was very good, and it wasn't really researched well at all, you can tell. But to do that, that's lost its marks immediately. And I thought, if someone giving a man, you've gone and bought that book, say, paid tenner for it, and you think, oh, it'll be a book about a nice, glitchy Christmas murder mystery. One.
No.
That's why. So, anyway, so, do you want to carry on bad mouthing it?
Yeah, you've got more bad mouthing to do.
Yeah.
Get all your rage out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the pacing was off on it in places, like I said before. And there was, when the captain came in, there was the captain above Nick and Duncan. There wasn't a massive amount of tension between the captain and Nick when the captain suspected Duncan was dodgy. He just desk-bounded him and then eventually suspended it, put him under house arrest. I thought to myself, he'd probably gone to prison. He'd have gone down for that straight away. And it was, and then Duncan went after the serial killer and got killed quite pathetically. So he's really false and really inaccurate. And I'm not going to go back to again what I thought about the after effects of the death on his face. He was running around 6 months again after his son died. I thought, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I said, anyway, that's all my whinging.
Yeah.
Is that bad enough,
So, yeah, is there anything else you want to say before you give it a really high mark then?
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Okay. What do you reckon I'm going to give it, Amanda?
Oh, I think you'll love it. I think you're going to give it 11, even though the high
10.
score's 10.
10.
Yeah.
Is it L? 4. And that's been nice. It lost 3 marks straight away because of the manipulative on the title and the cover. It probably would have
it's not a recommendation then.
Can't be, because I would have given it probably a 6. Borderline. I did. There was good bits and bad bits, but the cover is an out and out lie. You can't do that. So 4. Really, really poor book. A missed opportunity.
Okay.
Right, guys and girls, that's the end of part 1. Right, Amanda, what were you going to say?
Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. Say bye, Amanda.
Why do I feel like every time you say ho, 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 I feel like going Green Giant.
Well, I'm going to say. Right, guys and girls, seriously. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to, I nearly said spoken label, Reading in Bed, episode 36. You can see, perks are doing so many podcasts. I am.
Are you sure it's not your wrestling podcast?
No, definitely Reading in Bed. I am Andy N.
And I'm Amanda Steele.
Now, it's over to Amanda now, because she's going to do, just noticing this, a rarity. Just one book this month. Aren't you, Amanda?
Yeah, and then I'm going to briefly mention another one later, and we're going to talk about our best books as well,
Yeah,
aren't we?
indeed. Right, okay, Amanda, what is the title of your one
Okay,
best book?
so it's called Afraid of the Christmas Lights, and it's by various authors because it's an anthology.
Right, okay then. Have you got a blurb for the book?
I looked for a blurb, and on Amazon it was just full of reviews and quotes from people. So I went to Goodreads, and this is the only blurb I could find. So blink and you'll miss it. Festive shorts from the biggest stars in crime fiction.
Blimey. That's helpful,
That's
isn't it?
that's what you're left with when you cut out all the reviews and quotes.
Blimey. How did you find this book then in the first place? Though?
This was a book by on Pigeonhole, where
Ah,
you
right.
get the different extracts each day.
Oh, fair enough. So, right. So, okay. Over what period of time then did you read this book then?
I think it was over 8 days, and there were 2 stories each day.
16. That's not too bad. Then. Was there any writers that were known, made half known?
I've made a list of some of them. They've all like had publishers and things like that, and some have won awards, but I'd never heard of them. So some of them are called Victoria Selman, Kate Simantis, Joe Furniss, and Adam Southwood.
Cool. Cool. Okay then. So, what is? I know it's obviously it's hard to judge you doing strengths of books really. You're doing this sort of anthologies, isn't it? So, what did you like about the book? Were there stories
So
that stood out?
I had some favourite stories. There was one called An Unexpected Present by Phoebe Morgan. And without giving any spoilers away, there were a lot of revenge and dark humour,
So was
which
that
sort of
your
goes
was
with the
that
kind of things that I write.
yeah? Anyone knows your sense of humour, man? That means it's dark and cynical, and basically, isn't it?
Yeah. It was one of those ones where I sit there and read it, and you have to sort of scroll back and think, did I read this when did I write this when I was drunk and I've just forgotten? It's like, no, it's not me.
I can believe you knowing that one you sometimes. I've seen where you drink and do that sort of stuff. Cool. Okay. Was there any other stories you really liked?
There was another called Especially at Christmas by Adam Southwood that takes someone unreluctant dinner guests to a whole new level.
All
So
right.
if you ever been a guest at somewhere where you've not wanted to be, this just takes it to the extreme, really.
Yes, I can guess what's going to happen there with that one. So, all right, interesting. Okay. And was there any others you particularly liked?
One called Fresh Meat by Elle Croft, and this was about a crazy cat lady and what she feeds her cat, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise. You'll have to buy the book and read it.
Yeah,
But it's not cat food.
It sounds like it's books, doesn't it?
And if you're a man as well, it'll probably put you off online dating, or at least going round to some woman's house if you've not met her before and she has a cat.
I'm not going to say no more then definitely with that then. So yeah, it sounds eye-opening. That's probably the best way to put it in Amanda, isn't it? So okay, we've gone through a couple of stories that you liked. Was there any stories weaknesses is a better word for it in this case?
There was one story called Smithereens by an author called Dominic Nolan, and I felt like he was trying to be too clever in parts, and it got to the point where I'd had to search Google 10 times to understand what he was talking about.
Why was that down to the words or the topics he was talking
It's
about?
just like random words and stuff like, oh, look at me. I could actually say this simple word, but I'm going to use this really complicated word because I'm so clever.
Oh, blimey, one of them. Yeah, we know the score.
And it got to the point because on Pigeonhole, as you're reading along, you can actually put comments on, and some people didn't understand it. So he had to go through it all and start adding explanations, and it kind of interrupts the reading then, which defeats the whole point of it.
Yeah, sometimes there are some writers that can be too clever that are good there. So yeah, I get you. Okay, generally with the book then, is there any other stories that you didn't really like in it before we come to general talk about it?
No, I think that was it really.
Okay,
You could tell from the blurbs that the authors have had some kind of success. So I did add a few to my list to sort of look up later and see what the books are and possibly buy them.
So it sounds like it was that sort of book then, basically. That was it more hits and misses then, basically, was it?
Yeah, for an anthology, it was quite good. There's normally a lot more stories that you're left thinking, oh, well, they were rubbish, but it were overall, apart from that one, it was quite a good selection.
Oh, that's good news, then, because I think you're right. Because was it last Christmas you read that other anthology, didn't you? And I'm not going to badmouth Neil Gaiman because he's getting talked about in the next bit, but where you had a writer, didn't you? A book where it had a page and just over one of Neil Gaiman's story, didn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would
I
have
think
that.
it would have worked out as half a page, but they spread it over to make it last like 1.5 pages because of the format. But even that was stretching it a little bit. It was probably like maybe 200 or 300 words at the most.
Yeah. So I thought, so that book, I know that used him a massive selling point, didn't they? And I think you were quite disappointed with a lot of the book after that, really. This book sounds like to me that it was that sort of book that you didn't feel like you ripped off in it, basically, did you? So
Yeah, I don't know how the book was put together, but I get the feeling that the authors were approached rather than it was an open submission call.
yeah, I think sometimes when you do that, it means you know what you want then, basically, don't you? So you go for it. So well, that's good news. That's good to me then. So okay, is there anything else you need to say about this book?
There is one thing actually, all the profits from this are going to abuse charities. So that's something good. So if you're looking to buy a book and you want to help charities at the same time, it's a really good book to buy just because of that.
Oh, good. Is it better on Amazon? I'm presuming, is it?
Yeah, originally I thought it was just going to be on ebook because the ebook was the only one that was showing as pre-order, but I've just looked today and the paperback is showing now and it's £4.99.
Oh, so it sounds on like is what you're saying then, based out 16 stories, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
so it looks like you've got good enjoyment out of what about 15 of them, haven't you? So
Yeah, and it's well worth it to get even if you're just buying a present for someone for £4.99 and you know the profits are going to go to charity.
yeah, definitely. That sounds like you're in a winning situation there. Excellent. Okay then, Amanda. Well, that's the end of it of that book review. What are you going to give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it 9 out of 10, which is the best I can give it really, just because of that dud story that I told you about.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What is 9 out of 10 with reading in bed?
It's a recommendation.
Everyone go and get it. Sounds good to me. Right, everybody. That's the end of part 2. So, right, Amanda. Are we going to take a quick break?
Yeah.
Right, everybody, stay safe and stay up. We'll see you at say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed with me, Amanda Steele, and
Ian. Part 3 now, and this is my second book of the month. Now, this is very rare this month, Amanda, isn't it, really? Because normally you're reviewing more books than me. But because it's the first time it's ever happened, this.
yeah, well, I've read a lot of books, but I haven't reviewed them for one reason or another.
Yeah, we'll come on to that another day, that why. Now,
Yeah.
would you like to know the name of my third book, Amanda?
Yeah.
It's by a lady called Hope Mirrlees, and it's a book called Blood in the Mist. Do you want the blurb?
Yeah.
Okay. Blood in the Mist, a prosperous country town situated where two rivers meet, the Dal and the Dapple. The latter, which is a source in the land of Fairy, is a great child of Lud, which had long rejected anything other, preferring to believe only in what is known as what is solid. Nathaniel Chancellor is a somewhat dreamy, slightly melancholic man, not one for making waves, who is deliberately ignoring a vital part of his own past, a secret he refused to even acknowledge. But with the disappearance of his own daughter and a long overdue desire to protect his young son, he realizes something is changing in Lud, and something must be done. Blood in the Mist is a true classic, an adult fairy tale exploring the need to embrace what we fear, come to terms with the shadows, those sweet and dark impulsive that our own public selves ignore or repress.
Oh.
Now, is that a better? Let me ask you a question, generally. Is that a better blurb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the description of it being a dark fairy tale.
It is. It most definitely is. And I'm going to give you a quote first of all, I mentioned before in the last part. Neil Gaiman has been quoted as saying, "This is the most beautiful, unjustifiable, forgotten novel of the 20th century." Yeah, and it is really, because it's wrote in 1926, this book. So it's 90 odd years old now. And do you want me to give you a bit of a backstory to this book, Amanda? I've got a paragraph wrote here, actually.
Yeah.
It's worth knowing about this because she's an interesting lady, this one. Because she was Hope Mirrlees has been called the forgotten female modernist. Her and her partner, Jane Harrison, had close links to writers such as T.S. Eliot. Do you know have you heard of T.S. Eliot?
Yeah.
And Virginia Woolf?
Yeah.
Who famously referred to them as living in a sapphire flat somewhere, and commented on the size of Mirrlees' ankles in her diaries, bizarrely enough. Hope Mirrlees was quite a famous poem published called Paris, which was originally published by the Hogarth Press, and it was widely praised. And it apparently influenced Virginia Woolf's own The Jacob's Room piece I've heard of. And she wrote two other novels, but this is the one that people seem to like the most. And unlike Woolf and Eliot, her work was out of print for many, many years, until in the 70s, and then it came out again about 10 years later, again as a commercial paperback with a big introduction by Neil Gaiman. Okay. So, do you want some strengths?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what I like about this is I like the fact the main character is a master Nathaniel Chandlerley. And what I like about him is he's a middle-aged man. He's not classically what you get in fantasy books, a classic hero and stuff like that. He's not. Just a normal overweight middle-aged man, basically. So it was like, and he seems to it was quite interesting because he seems to take pride in the lack of imagination and the ability to feel serious emotion with a secret fear. And then it all seemed to link into like I said, it was the construction of his other world and other worlds beyond it. It's a funny book because it is beautifully written, man. No two ways about it. Very lucid and vivid, and packed with lush imagery, particularly nature as well. And I think what you would have liked about it would have been was it came before, obviously, fantasy books started really getting more popular. So it let her, she was breaking the rules, you see, later on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was like, you get something like, because interesting, did you know when Lord of the Rings first started coming out as a book?
No.
1937. That went on for how many years? Those 3 books took to write. This predates The Hobbit. So it's like Hobbit.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, that's Hobbit and stuff. Tolkien was really the first major fantasy book. There's been other ones wrote before it, and this one's like Neil Gaiman regards it as an adult fairy book. Because Lord of the Rings is possibly aimed at teenage boys, possibly more. This is aimed at almost like adults, and it's quite a different experience. That's why, and it's really, really interesting. I mean, it's a bit slow. It's a bit slow. Do you like books that are really quite? Do you like fast-moving books or slow books? Or?
It depends, really. I mean, sometimes you can have books where not much happens, but it's well written and there's a lot of imagery and stuff like that, and you don't mind it so much.
This is that sort of book, really, straight away. It's not for everybody, straight away. And I'll come on to that in the weaknesses in a minute. But have you ever read Stardust by Neil Gaiman or seen the film even?
I think I've seen a film. I can't remember now.
The book's better. The book's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It's probably my favourite book of his, actually. And you can see from this, because the books were faster paced, the book's quite slow. And you can see where Neil Gaiman got a lot of ideas for Stardust from this film, although that is very different. And I can see where Tolkien as well got some ideas. Tolkien clearly had read this book before he started Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. You can see it a mile off. It's got that sort of Englishness about it, the fantasy tale. So
Yeah.
It's a very, very good book, enjoyable. Do you want to know the weaknesses?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's a book, I don't know, it's always slightly offbeat for some reason. And it probably for that reason, it wasn't a massive success at the time. Because you see, you read some books, you can think to yourself, well, I enjoyed it, but you can see why it didn't become a massive seller. Do you know what you mean by that at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like they've killed it because it's almost like I said, it's despite having an overall deliberate pace but the plot seems randomly, man, weird enough to speed up and slow down as if time's passing at different rates. But it's in a couple of worlds, so it's possible. But it's interesting that because but it is a beautiful book, but it's as of its time, and I can see a lot of the 1920s in this book, and because it's so wordy in places, I did find it quite hard to read, actually. But I enjoyed it. It's worth sticking with, but
Yeah.
the ending is very disappointing. Very, very disappointing ending, which I won't go into. But it seemed to cut off before concluding something major for me. So,
Okay, so do you want to give it a score?
what do you reckon I'm going to give it?
I think it's going to be a recommendation.
Yeah, it's dated, and when you're looking at dated books, it loses marks by a modern audience really to a degree. And the ending was a bit disappointing, so it's lost marks of both of them really. But it's got 7.5.
Okay.
And my philosophy is, if we get to that 80 odd years time after we both moved on to the next lives, if one of our books gets out of no mark out of 10, I'll be delighted, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a strange idea, actually, isn't it? If there's such a thing as reincarnation, we could be reading old books thinking this is really good, and we might have wrote them.
You don't know. You just don't know with life sometimes. It's a funny thing at the best of times, really. So you never know, really, at all. But no, it's interesting, certainly. So it's an interesting thought to think about. So I believe in that, actually, truth be told. I think it's very possible. Like, it's what you've done in... We're wandering off topic here, but I want to know Amanda's opinion on this. Could you believe, Amanda, it's possible, as a writer, you could be a writer in another life?
Possibly, yeah, but I don't think I'd ever sort of read the books because I don't think they'd be good enough. But if I've written books in a past life, they're probably buried or dusty in a library somewhere,
Yeah.
fading away.
Who knows? Who knows? Deserted lives. I know, right. Right, guys and girls, we get here all night and that. It's an interesting topic to talk about. So, right, Amanda, we're on to part 4, aren't we?
Yeah.
Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading and bed.
Welcome back to part 4 of Reading and Bed, episode 36. I am Andy.
And I am Amanda Steele.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Right. We're not actually going to be doing any more book reviews this month now, this year. But to part 4, there's a couple of things we want to cover today. And Amanda's going to do... What do you got, Amanda? A quick recommendation, or in passing, should we call it?
Yeah. So it's called Santa in a Snow Globe, and I've been unprepared and haven't even written down the author, but it should be easy to find. And it's an 18-page picture book. And basically, it just explains to parents and caregivers how to explain to children that Christmas might be a bit different this year. Like if you go visit Santa, you might not be able to sit on his knee, or he might be behind a plastic screen. So I thought that was a really useful thing, because obviously it's difficult to explain this kind of thing to children.
Yeah, I thought, you remember me telling about this on the Amanda, when you got this to review, didn't you? Honestly, like I said, it's very hard for us to really do an audio review on an 18-page children's book. But how did it approach you actually writing a review for it on the Amazon?
I just did a little review and just said about because there's some illustrations and they're really good illustrations, and it's written in the form of a poem. The Night Before Christmas poem? It's written a bit like that, like it's rewritten, and it basically just explains to young children, like why Christmas might not be the same this year, and presents aren't the most important thing, and family's important at this time of year.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent. That's what they say. It sounds like, I think sometimes the myth is when you do children's books, and this is not a case of that quite clearly, and I say it straight away. Where some books based on children's books, it can be aimed at they can be too childish for their own good sometimes, can't they? Yeah. And it was like, this one sounded like it's done it as a really informative adult way, and I like that. I think that's a really, really nice thought. Could you give this a mark out of 10, Amanda, for us today, or did you get as far as that?
So I'd give it a 10, yeah. I can't see anything wrong with it. I mean, parents will know if it's the kind of thing that's going to help the child or not, and whether they want to buy it and read it to them.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, sounds good to me. Definitely that one, so cool. Okay, then. Right, we're on to books of the year now, Amanda, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right, tell you what we'll do then, for everybody. People are wondering. We'll take it in turns. We've got 2 each. So I'm going to let Amanda go first this time. What's your first book of the year?
It's The Resident by David Jackson.
Oh, I remember you doing this on Reading About Extracts as well, didn't you?
Yeah, this was about a serial killer called Thomas Brogan, and he's killed a couple, and he gets caught by the police and manages to evade them, and finds his way into a deserted house, which he discovers when he goes up to the attic that it leads to all the houses on that street, so he can spy on people and start making plans to kill them all one by one. So it's a nice Christmassy theme, really.
Very cheerful, very, very cheerful indeed. So definitely that one. So cool. Okay, do you want to know what my first book of the year is?
Yeah.
I had to double check when we did this one. I did this one back in March, actually, episode 27. And this was, I'm just going to put another book this guy as well, by Michael Morpurgo, he's called him. So this is, the book I've got is Why the Whales Came. And do you remember reviewing this one?
I can't remember now.
It was a children's book, this one, but it was a beautiful book. I'll read it out to you, okay? It's an exciting, It's on Amazon, an exciting historical adventure of warhorse author Michael Morpurgo. Gracie and her friend Daniel are all warned to stay away from the Birdman and his side of the island. When they find a message in the sand to the Birdman is not who he thought. They build up a lovely friendship with him. But when the children get stranded in Samson Island, they don't know what to believe the Birdman's story, that the island is cursed. Set against the backdrop of the First World War, in the tradition of friend or foe or peaceful, private peaceful, Michael Morpurgo brings an emotional reality of conflict to life in a way that is accessible to young readers. I love this book because I was reading it and it was one where it was aimed at children, but it was like you did the only book you reviewed before for Samantha. I think it crossed over really, really well as to adults as well. And it was, the ending was a bit predictable in places, but the atmosphere in it was quite gothic and it really was a beautifully told little book. So maybe in January I may have his next book to read and got Patrick to open up yesterday, like I said. So watch your space. Okay, Amanda, your second book of the year.
Okay, so it's The Book of Dust, A Secret Commonwealth by Philip Pullman.
Oh.
And if you remember, I didn't read the book. I had the audio, which is narrated by Michael Sheen.
Oh, and we know you love Michael Sheen. Well, the question is, was it Michael Sheen that sold the book to you, or was it the book?
I got the first one, and I'd never heard him narrate anything before, so I wasn't sure about the book, but he just brought it to life, and it made me want to read the second one, or get the second one in audio anyway.
And he did the second one as well, then, didn't he, as well? So
yeah. I was like waiting for it to come out and to find out who was narrating it. And as soon as I found that he was narrating it again, it's like, yeah, I signed up for Audible for another month.
Just for that, yeah. No, fair play to you, definitely that. So, but that's as people, I don't know if people know this, man. You do listen to a lot of audio books, don't you? Is he been your favourite narrator so far you've come across?
Yeah, because he's a fan of the books, and you can tell as well that he's just, it brings all the characters to life. And it's like sometimes you'll listen to an audio book and they won't quite get the characters right. And that's not a criticism because it's hard to do all the voices and make everyone sound different. But when you get someone like Michael Sheen that actually makes each character sound different, and he's putting on a girl's voice, obviously, without sound stupid. No, he manages to do it without making it sound like that. So it does. You can tell it's still him, but it sort of the voice, the tone changes a little bit.
No, cool. That's good to me. Okay, then. Do you want to know what my second book of the year is? Or year, I should say, is?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay. This was last month, actually. And you might be expecting this one, Amanda, actually. Karina Longworth, Seduction, Sex, Lies and Stardom, and Howard Hughes' Hollywood.
I remember you reviewing this. This was quite recently, wasn't it?
Last month.
Yeah.
But
recently.
Yeah, I know. No, but it's in this case, I'll read the blurb out again in case you didn't catch last month's episode. It does go for a bit of blurb, so I do apologise. In this riveting popular history, the creator of You Must Remember This probes the inner workings of Hollywood's glamorous golden age through the stories of some of the dozens of actresses pursued by Howard Hughes, to reveal how the millionaire's mogul's obsession with sex, power, and publicity trapped, abused, and benefited women who dreamt of extreme stardom. I'm not going to go, I won't read the rest of it, it does go on for a while, but anyone knows me, they know I love podcasts called You Must Remember This. And I got into that series not long after it started, because Career Longwood covers the first century of Hollywood. A lot of the scandals that go on behind stories and story behind stories. And it's a riveting podcast. And she's done other little bits of novels before, but it's her first major novel. And it was nearly 600 pages, and it felt like it was perfectly posed to me. It really was a fascinating and gripping book. Which is ironic, like a book I read, a little book, 192 pages, a big 600 pager. It shows you, doesn't it, what different approach we go on books sometimes, Amanda. So it's recommended after it's a powerful, powerful book. So. Okay, Amanda. What are we doing now, then?
We're going to do a little bit of our own work, aren't we? Reading something out.
I'll go. Do you want me to go first this time? You go second.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. This one I wrote recently, and this I did for our writing group, Amanda, didn't I? Only a couple of days ago, and it's gone down pretty well, this piece. So, and there is an unedited version. There's lots of swearing in, but I'm going to be professional today and keep it nice. So this is Unexpected Christmas Present. Who sent him it? It wasn't clear. It was tied up next to the Christmas tree in huge wrapping paper and a blank label. When he tried opening it, it moved away from him towards the fire, growling. What? He said to his wife, Molly. Did you get this? I thought it was you, she answered. It wasn't there when I went to bed last night, and I went to bed an hour before you. It wasn't me either. He looked at still as wrapping paper shivering next to the fire. One of the boys hasn't gone and kidnapped Mrs. Johnson's cat for a joke, have they? No, they haven't, they answered. It was my ex-employer. He left me here. Tommy looked at Molly in shock as he saw a reindeer with a huge red nose start to unwrap itself in wrapping paper. Rudolph? Molly said, shocked. Who else do you think it'll be? Rudolph pulled himself out of his wrapping paper. I've been trying to get out this paper all night. Who did this to you? Tommy said eventually, after sweeping the wrapping paper away. Who do you think? Father Christmas! The two sons said, running into the room only to stop when they saw Rudolph sat in their armchair with a glass of mulled wine in his hand. Dad? One of them said, looking at him, is that? Yeah. Rudolph then began and stopped. It's me. Father Christmas sacked me. Sacked you, Molly said, coming back to the kitchen after leaving the two boys as porridge. He's such a bore, Rudolph carried on. I was only joking when I suggested the wife swap. I didn't expect him to kick me out after across the sky and dump me here. That's terrible. Do you want me to ring him? Surely he can sort this out, Tommy asked. A little difficult, Rudolph blushed. Why? The other reindeers have gone on strike after they heard what happened to me. Strike? They never liked me anyway. I'm not bothered. And your wife? Don't ask. It was going to be a long day. Amanda, what was the unedited version of this like then? When I wrote down the workshop, do you remember?
It had about 10 swear words in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of F-bombs. Rudolph was dropping a lot of F-bombs in it, but it worked. But not for this case. I think it's nice. It's nice sometimes being restrained. So. Right, Amanda, what are you reading for us today?
So I'm going to read a piece of flash fiction from my 12 Gifts of Father Christmas book, which is available on Amazon. And this one's called Santa Claus and the Climate Change. Some people say Santa doesn't exist, and some people say the same about global warming. Santa never gave much credit to the news reports either. He was as shocked as anyone when the ice melted in Lapland and all the reindeers drowned. Their screams were enough to give him nightmares, and the way Rudolph Ice silently pleaded with him to help was enough to drive him to drinking extra eggnog. That look stayed embedded in his mind, only fading when he was intoxicated. Mr. Claus woke up from another nightmare, reliving those last moments when Rudolph sank to his watery death. The alarm was set to alert him and the elves that it was time to go. Regardless of the loss, the children would be waiting for their presents. Telling them all global warming was to blame would only traumatise them too. He couldn't bring himself to tell them about the reindeer either. So he hired a team of llamas to drive his sleigh and to ensure Christmas would go ahead. When they were flying, the llamas, all juiced up on pixie dust, began to get hungry. Not content with carrots or mince pies left out by hopeful children, they chewed at the ropes instead. That's when Santa fell, landing in a thawed-out lake and meeting his untimely end. The end. Happy Christmas.
Whoa. As you can see, we do like projecting positivity here on Reading in Bed. Well, sometimes anyway.
So. It's not the real Santa. No Santas were harmed in the making of this book.
No, all part of Amanda's deep, disturbed imagination. It wasn't it, really? So.
Yeah.
Right, Amanda, where can people get your book from, of course, just to clarify again?
It's available on Amazon as an ebook and a paperback, and if you've got Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free as part of your subscription.
That's good to me then. Right, guys and girls, well, that's it for Reading in Bed and Christmas special. What are we doing next month, Amanda?
Books.
Yeah. Are you going to drop any hints to people what you're going to do? Have you got any ideas yet? Zombies. I've got a fantasy book. I'm about a third of the way through at the moment, and I'm going to look at this other book by Michael Moore, or whatever his name is again. So, by that, we're going to be on it. We'll be back in the beginning of January, Amanda, won't we? So, and if people want to know what we're doing on Christmas, reading and drinking. Reading and drinking in the study. In bed. Right. So, service guys and girls, this is Andy N signing out. This is Amanda Steele. Drinking. Yeah, drinking off. Right, we're going to go and relax after the guys and girls. So stay safe. We don't speak till soon. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Reading in bed. Reading in bed.